In 1994, a demolition crew tearing down an old boarding house in San Francisco found something behind a false panel in a bedroom wall. A tin box. Inside it, a stack of yellowed papers tied with string and a rosary gone black with age. No name on the box, no name on the papers, just a date at the very end, 1978. The foreman almost threw it out. Almost. But he read the first line, and he couldn't stop. Neither will you. By the time anyone reads this, I will be long dead. I have hidden these pages so well I doubt they will ever be found. Maybe that's for the best. I write these words in a state of terrible mental strain. I have no money left, no comfort, no peace, and the little medicine that once dulled the horror is gone. I have nothing left to hold the darkness back. If I have become dependent on morphine, do not think me weak. I was not always this way. I was once a practical man, a man of business, a man who believed the world could be explained if you looked at it long enough. That belief died a long time ago. What I saw out there destroyed it.
I told the truth once, to people I trusted, and I watched their faces change while I spoke. I watched them decide, gently and permanently, that I was broken. After that day, I never said another word about it. Not for the rest of my life. Not to my wife. Not to my children. Not to a living soul. Until this box. Until whoever finds it. Until you. So listen carefully. Because once I begin, there is no going back. It happened during the Second World War. I was serving a supercargo aboard a merchant vessel in the Pacific. We were far from any major shipping lane, far from land, far from help. Then a German raider found us. The attack was swift, cold, efficient. There was no heroic battle, no glorious last stand, just panic, shouting, and the sudden realization that the ship was no longer ours. We were taken prisoner. At first, I thought that was the worst thing that could happen to me. I was wrong. The captors treated us with a strange sort of discipline, not kindness, not cruelty either, just order. And because of that order, I managed to escape 5 days later in a small boat. I took what water and food I could carry, then pushed off into the open sea. At the time, I thought I was saving myself. I thought I was choosing freedom. I had no idea I was sailing straight into something far worse than captivity. For days I drifted. No land, no ships, no sign of life. Just the sun above me and the ocean below me. I had no exact idea where I was. I was not a skilled navigator and could only guess my position by the stars and the sun. I knew I was south of the equator. That was all. The sea was calm, almost too calm. The kind of calm that starts to feel wrong after a while. The kind that makes you feel like the world has stopped breathing. I waited for rescue. I waited for a storm. I waited for anything. Nothing came. The days blurred together. My water began to run low. My food was nearly gone. And the silence became unbearable. When you are alone at sea long enough, you start to hear things. Not voices, not at first. Just the creak of the boat, the slap of water, the soft hiss of wind. But after a while, even that starts to sound like something watching you. I remember lying there one night, thinking that if I died, no one would ever know where I'd gone. No one would ever find the boat. No one would ever find my body. I would simply vanish. And maybe that would have been a mercy. Because then came the morning I woke up, and the sea was gone. At first, I thought I was still dreaming. I sat up slowly. My head was pounding. My mouth was dry. And for one strange, impossible second, I thought I was looking at a beach. It wasn't a beach. It was a plain. A vast, black, rotting plain stretching in every direction. The water had vanished. In its place, slime, mud, dead fish, and something else buried in the muck I could not identify and did not want to. My boat sat on the ground as if it had been set down on land. I stared. I couldn't understand it. My mind refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. The air smelled of decay, of salt, of rot, and under it all, a stench so foul it turned my stomach.
There was no sound, no waves, no gulls, no wind, nothing. Just silence. The kind that presses against your ears until you start to feel like you're going mad. The sun was already high, beating down on the black plain with cruel intensity. The surface looked wet in some places, dried in others, like the skin of something diseased. I climbed out of the boat and nearly slipped in the slime. That was when I saw the fish. Thousands of them. Some fresh, some bloated, some half buried in the mud. Mixed among them, shapes I couldn't explain. Long bones, broken shells, fragments of things that might once have been alive. I stood there a long time, too shocked to move, too terrified to think. Then I did the only thing I could do. I convinced myself there had to be a reason. Some geological event, some unimaginable upheaval. Maybe the seafloor had risen. Maybe the ocean had drained away somewhere. Maybe I had gone insane. That last thought seemed more likely with every passing minute.
Still, I had no choice but to keep moving. I had to find land or water or another human being or death. Anything would have been better than standing in that dead black wasteland. So I packed what little food and water I had left and started walking. In the distance, I saw a rise, a hill. It was the only thing on that endless plain that looked like it might lead somewhere. I headed toward it. At first, I thought I'd reach it in a few hours. I was wrong. The plain was so flat, so featureless, that distance became impossible to judge. The hill seemed to stay the same size no matter how long I walked. The heat got worse. The stink got worse. The silence never broke. By the end of the first day, I was exhausted. By the second, I was barely thinking straight. By the third, I was beginning to hallucinate. Shapes in the mud, something dragging itself behind me. Every time I turned, there was nothing there. Only the plain. Only the dead fish. Only the black, shining rot. On the fourth day, I finally reached the base of the hill. Up close, it was much larger than it had looked from a distance. Steep, jagged, wrong somehow, like it had been placed there instead of formed naturally. I was too tired to climb it that night, so I slept in its shadow. That was a mistake. Because that night I dreamed, and I still don't know whether the dream came from my own mind or from somewhere else. I saw dark water, a moon hanging low and swollen, shapes moving beneath the surface, huge shapes, and I heard chanting, low, wet, rhythmic, like a prayer spoken by something that had no business speaking at all. I woke before dawn, drenched in sweat, heart pounding. I didn't want to sleep again, not ever. When the moon rose, I realized something else. Traveling by day had been the mistake. The heat had drained me. The night air gave me strength. So I gathered my things and started climbing. The moonlight made everything look worse. The black plain below shimmered like oil. The hill cast a long shadow. And at the top, I saw something that made me stop dead. A canyon. A massive chasm split the land ahead of me, so deep the moonlight couldn't reach the bottom. It looked like the world had been cut open, like I was standing at the edge of a wound. I remember gripping the rocks, staring into that darkness, thinking of hell, of every story ever told about things buried beneath the earth. Then I saw the canyon wasn't empty. There was water down there, a narrow stretch of black water glinting in the moonlight, and across it stood something enormous. At first I thought it was a stone, a monolith, but the more I looked, the more I realized it had been worked by hands, human hands, or something close enough to human to make the thought unbearable. The stone was covered in carvings, symbols, images, reliefs. I climbed down carefully, hands shaking so badly I nearly fell twice. When I reached the lower slope, I could see them clearly.
Fish, eels, octopuses, crustaceans, whales, and then other creatures. Things with wings, things with horns, things with long reptilian necks and sharp teeth. Dragons, not the kind from fairy tales, not the kind painted in storybooks. Ancient dragons, sea dragons, winged dragons, monsters with clawed limbs and terrible faces shown kneeling before the stone like worshippers. There were also figures that looked almost human, almost. Their bodies were wrong, their hands were webbed, their mouths too wide, their eyes bulged strangely, as if they'd been stretched and twisted by the sea itself. They were shown worshipping the monolith, dancing around it, offering things to it. One carving showed a creature killing a whale that looked tiny beside it. Another showed a dragon with wings spread wide over a crowd of kneeling figures. I remember thinking, at first, that I had found the gods of some forgotten tribe, some ancient fisherman, some lost civilization. But the longer I stared, the more that theory fell apart. This wasn't mythology. It was history.
And then I saw movement across the water. First a ripple, then a shape, then a head. Huge, scaled, wet and glistening in the moonlight. It climbed from the water with terrible strength. Its body was broad and reptilian, its limbs thick and clawed, its back lined with ridges. From its shoulders, something like folded wings or fins hung heavy and dripping. A dragon, or something that had inspired every dragon story ever told. It moved to the monolith, placed its clawed hands against the stone, bowed its head. Then it began to chant, a sound that was not animal, deliberate, measured, almost ceremonial, like a prayer, like worship. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. I could only stand there and watch as the creature lifted its head and turned slightly, as if it had sensed me. Then more movement beneath the water, more shapes, maybe a dozen, maybe more. I didn't stay long enough to count. Something inside me snapped. I ran, scrambling back up the slope in blind panic, slipping, clawing at the ground, half certain something was chasing me. Maybe it was. I didn't look back. I remember laughing while I ran. Not because anything was funny, because I had lost my mind. I remember shouting nonsense, falling. The boat. The sky turning black with storm clouds. And the sound. God, I remember the sound. Thunder rolling overhead like the world splitting apart. The wind screaming across the plain. The ground trembling beneath me. And somewhere behind me, in the dark, something enormous. Moving. I don't know whether the sea returned or the land sank again. Everything after that is fragments. Noise. Darkness. When I woke again, I was in a hospital in San Francisco.
An American ship had found me drifting in the open ocean. Delirious, they said. Too long in the sun. Lucky to be alive. I told them what I'd seen. The black plane, the canyon, the monolith, the carvings, the thing rising from the water. No one believed me. Why would they? To them, I was just a frightened sailor with a damaged mind. Later, I sought out a scholar of ancient cultures, asked him about old sea legends, about forgotten gods, about Dagon, about creatures worshipped before the rise of civilization. The scholar listened politely, then gave me the look people give to the hopelessly insane.
So I stopped talking. Not for a week or a year, for the rest of my life. I married. I raised children. I built the ordinary shape of a life over the top of what I'd seen, the way scar tissue builds over a wound, and I never once let anyone see underneath it. But silence didn't save me. It only gave the memory room to grow. It started small, a thought that wasn't mine, sliding in sideways while I shaved, or drove, or lay beside my wife in the dark. A word in a language I didn't speak, sitting whole in my mouth as if I'd always known it. Then the visions came. Streets I had never walked, a city skyline that matched nothing on any map I could find, a woman's face I had never seen in my life, and yet I knew I had grieved her. I told myself it was the sun, the dehydration, a mind healing wrong after what it survived. It didn't stop. Some mornings I woke with grief in my chest for a life I had never lived. Doctors found nothing. Sedatives dulled it without ending it. Years passed this way, the visions rising and falling like a tide I couldn't predict, always worse in the weeks around the anniversary of my rescue.
Finally, in 1977, a friend gave me a name, quietly, almost apologetically, a woman who worked with energies, who might see something the doctors couldn't. I almost didn't go. I had learned decades earlier exactly what happens to a man who tells strangers what's living in his head. But I went. Her name was Odalise. She read cards in the front room of her house and kept the back room dark and cool and smelling of sandalwood. She didn't ask me to explain myself. She simply took my hands, closed her eyes, and sat in silence for a long time. Then she described the monolith, the carvings, the shape of the thing that had risen from the water. I hadn't told her a single word of it. There are places on this earth, she told me, that were never fully sealed, old places, thin places, places where the membrane between this world and another has worn through, the way a floorboard wears through from footsteps, over centuries, over millennia. Most people who pass near one feel nothing at all. But some people, unlucky people, or perhaps simply sensitive people, become witnesses. And once you have truly witnessed a place like that, a part of your timeline doesn't come all the way back with you. It stays threaded to the other side, overlapping, bleeding through. That is what you are feeling. Not madness, not illness. A second life, running alongside your own, close enough now that its thoughts sometimes wander into your thoughts, and its memories sometimes wander into your dreams. You didn't just see a monster that day, she told me. You saw the seam, and the seam has never fully closed behind you. I should have felt relief. Instead, something colder settled into me, because if she was right, the door in me had never shut. And if it had never shut, something on the other side might still be able to feel me too. In the weeks after I saw her, the visions grew sharper instead of fainter, and then the dreams began again. The moon, the water, the chanting.
Last week, I heard something outside my window at night. Not an animal, something heavier, something that moved like it was thinking. I told myself it was nothing. I have told myself that my whole life. Tonight, I am not telling myself anything anymore. I don't know if it followed me home in 1943 or if it only found the thread Odalise described and has been following that thread since, slowly, patiently, across 35 years and half a world. Either way, I think it is close. I have moved twice this year without telling my own family why. It keeps finding the new address anyway. I am sealing these pages inside this wall because I do not want my children to ever have to read them while I am alive, to watch their faces change the way that scholar's face changed. Let a stranger find it instead. Let anyone believe me who wants to believe me. It costs me nothing anymore. I can hear it in the yard now, dragging itself across the grass the way it once dragged itself onto that stone. I am not going to run this time. I ran once, 35 years ago, and it only ever bought me this much: a life spent listening for a sound I already knew was coming. If this is the seam finally closing all the way, with me on the wrong side of it, I think, after 35 years, I am almost ready. Goodbye. 1978.
The demolition foreman who found the box read it twice, then called the local paper. No one could ever identify whose room it had been. City records for the address showed 3 different tenants across the 1970s. None of their files mentioned a disappearance. None of them mentioned anything at all.
The box sat in a university archive for years, uncatalogued, half forgotten, until someone finally photographed the pages and posted them online, asking if anyone recognized the handwriting. No one ever has. But every so often, in the comments, someone says the same strange thing, that they've had a thought that wasn't theirs, a memory of a place they've never been, and they always ask the same question: if the world like this ever existed, who erased the pages from the history books?